Success is a pretty overused word. There's about 10,000 different definitions of it, all spoken by different people, and none of them seem to agree. But that's okay, because we don't care what they think. It doesn't matter what a YouTuber or a famous actor or a CEO is defining success as. Our question is, what does success mean to you? If you don't know, keep listening, because we're going to be talking about the nature of success, which is probably not what you think it is. And we're going to be finishing giving you one practical tip to starting your journey to defining and attaining success in your life. All that and more on the show.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast, where our goal is to help you live a life that you can be proud of. I'm Reese.
And I'm David.
And we are talking about the nature of success. Last week, we talked about how success is inside out, how when you get better, everything else in your life gets better. So one of the best ways to improve your life is to improve yourself.
It's true.
This week, we're talking about another aspect that really helps us define success, and it's the fact that success is individual. Now, Dad, could you kind of give us the thought process behind that idea? Success is individual. Does that mean it's subjective? It's whatever you want it to be? Or is there something different that's going on?
Yeah, I think the main thing with success being individual is every man is an individual. And that's what men have a tendency, we all compare to each other.
Yeah.
It's just a natural thing we do.
Yep.
And so you walk into a room, you're comparing yourself to everybody in that room. It's just something that's in men. But we have to understand that our success will look different from every other person. It doesn't mean it's subjective. It means success is universal in a lot of fundamentals that you apply to your life, but what it looks like is very different for each individual man.
Yeah.
Every man has things they're into, their hobbies, their family, where they're from in society.
Yep.
So their success looks different. If you own a business and you're a plumber, your business, what you do in life will look very different from a guy who's an investment banker.
Right.
You can both be successful, but it will look different because you're both individuals. And I think as men, we have to understand that who we are really defines our success in a lot of ways by not comparing it to other people, but really comparing it with, okay, am I doing my best?
Yeah.
Am I giving my all? Where am I
Right.
in these areas of my life?
Yeah, no, that's very good. I think to define it in like a tweetable way, when it comes to success, the principles are the same,
Yeah.
but the process is different.
Yeah.
The principles are universal, while the process is individual. I think a lot of times we stress ourselves out because we get the process mixed up with the principle.
Yeah.
So we look at social media, right? And everybody's saying, hey, you got to do it this way.
Yeah.
This is the way. You know, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have seen on like Instagram or Facebook or something, that millionaire guy who's
Yeah.
like, oh, I made $1 billion by sitting on my couch and you can do it too.
Yeah.
You know, for him, what he's selling to you is this idea of success looking a very specific way. So he's thinking about the process.
Yeah.
And if we get caught in that mindset, that success looks like a certain set of actions, it looks like a process for us, then comparison becomes very stressful.
Yeah.
Because comparison turns into, I should be doing what that guy's doing.
Yeah.
I need to be doing what he's doing.
Yeah. And what we do is we don't take the good that we're doing. We kind of discount it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't look like him, so I'm a failure.
Yeah.
When you may be healthy, the goal is health. The goal is not to have a certain body type look, you know. And so what we want to do is make sure we're being realistic, but also we are pushing ourselves.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you think of a playground. When kids have a playground and there's no fence, they tend to stay in the middle. They all do the same thing. But when you give the kids a fence, they tend to spread out into that area. They'll run around their play. So they've done studies on this with children. Children feel more free when they know the boundaries.
That's good.
And I think for men, it's the same thing. We're like, okay, there are some basics of success. That's the fence. But everything in between is something you can do. Your playing in the playground looks different from the other kid playing, but you're both playing and you're both in that realm.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do is figure out, okay, what are the basics?
Yeah.
We call them the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And then what am I doing within those to give my very best? That's what success looks like for a lot of men.
Yeah, that's really good. Anything within those boundaries is
Yeah.
free game.
Yeah.
And so I think if we get caught in the path mentality,
Yeah.
it really sets us up for failure, to be honest. Because you're like, success looks like this.
Yeah.
Success is a very specific thing. And if it's anything besides that one thing,
Yeah.
it's stupid. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that way. A lot of people sell products that way, in
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. We go to advertising, they push a certain thing, they do a certain thing. Like I just saw a news story the other day about a guy who had a wife, has a child, left his wife for this very famous person because somewhere in him he was insecure and he felt, oh, this famous person likes me. I could never get her on my own. And she's destroying their family and he's letting it happen because his insecurity is driving him to say, well, I've got a wife, I've got a child, I've got a good life, but oh, this looks really shiny.
Right.
And that means I'm a better man than what I think I am.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of guys fall into that. They start comparing and it causes them to forget what's important, who they are, things like that.
No, that's good. I almost think of Disney World. Guys, if you've ever been to Disney World, you know there are like 4 different theme parks making up Disney World.
Yeah.
But there are certain people that actually make a living off of saying you have to do it this way.
Yeah.
Well, first you got to be going not clockwise, but counterclockwise because
Yeah.
everybody naturally goes clockwise. So you
That's
got to go
true.
counterclockwise. You got to hit this park first and you got to go to
Yeah.
that second. And once you hit that, you got to eat at this restaurant. And what they're doing is they're saying, if you don't do it this way, you haven't really been to Disney World.
Yeah.
If you don't go this exact route, you're not going to get a Disney World experience.
Well, and it's funny because like when we went to Disney World, your mom, I mean, she was
She
that
looked
person.
it up.
She
was that
studied and she had the everything lined up. We're
Yep.
going to hit this. And it was great.
It was great.
Loved it.
It was great.
But then there's other people that we know, that's not their idea of a vacation.
No, they hate
They
that.
just love being there.
Yeah.
They don't care. They'll show up at noon. We're the ones who, okay, the doors are opening. Let's go. We're going to hit it. We're going to get to that one
Yep.
ride.
Yep.
And that's 2 different styles. But you know what? Both of them are at Disney World.
Both of them went to Disney World.
Both of them are having a great vacation. It's just their style and how they do it.
Exactly. So, I mean, the same thing happens with success. We've got all these people on social media, movies, whatever that thing is for you. It could be
Yeah.
the hunting channel. I don't know. But you look at that specific way they're doing life
Yeah.
and you say, that's success.
Yeah.
And you don't realize, like, it causes you to miss out on what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Or it'll cause you to take what you're doing and make the definition of success so narrow that even if you do well, you feel like you're failing. A good example in my life, that this happened like 2 days ago. I felt God kind of challenged me personally because I was thinking like, man, I'm scared that this thriving man
Yeah.
isn't going to be successful.
Yeah.
And God kind of hit me and was like, hey, what is your definition of success in this scenario? It was a lot more narrow than really it should be. Because, like in my mind, and I do this to myself, y'all, I'll be the first to admit it. Sometimes I will set such an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't meet that, I'm like, well, I guess it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
And so like for me, Thriving Man's like, speaking at conferences or, making things that reach, I mean, we've talked about 1 million men, helping 1 million men, you know, writing books that are good resources for people, all this different stuff. All of it had to be included in my narrow definition of success.
Yeah.
And I realized like I'm missing out on great things. Like, for example, the fact we get to hang out.
Yeah.
Like part of the definition of success, the new one for me, is I realized like this is time for us to hang out. We get more quality connecting time doing this, getting together and working on a project together than we would have if we didn't have this.
Well, and it kind of came out. I mean, you think about how this came out. We were doing another podcast. We figured out that we love working together.
Right.
We love talking. And the funny thing is, we would do this anyway in a lot of ways. Like whenever we get together, my daughter makes fun of us because we will talk just like this. We'll have these deep, long conversations.
This is every day, y'all.
And Reese's wife and his sister will be like, oh gosh, and they'll be in the back of the car just on their phone because it's killing them.
Yeah.
But that's just who we are. So for us, this is fun.
Yep.
And to get to do this and help other guys is just an extra bonus for us.
Oh yeah, it's true. I remember a couple months ago when you got back from Korea, most people would just sleep. But we talked for 3 hours the whole car ride.
Yep.
We were just hanging out, having a good time. But I would have missed that definition of success, that the fact that is huge. That's a big blessing for me. I miss out on that when I make my definition of success very narrow. I make it destination oriented.
And a lot of people today, you hear a lot of people talking about gratitude.
Yeah.
And I think what people are realizing is that they're chasing this bunny of success, kind of like the dogs around the track chasing the bunny. And they realize I'm not really thankful for anything in my life.
Right.
And it's true. When you don't develop gratitude, you just kind of take things for granted. And you don't sit there and go, wow, I'm healthy. Or, my home is blessed. I live in a home. That's a blessing. I have a car that works. Yes. And when you don't think of those things, you tend to look at the negative. Well, my car's old. Or, I've got this, I've got
my
that.
house could be bigger. My neighborhood could be fancier or whatever. And you're right. We do that. And if we fall into the success as a specific line and we miss out on the whole boundary principle, well, then we miss out on really our own potential. Yeah. Because here's a good example. Let's look at exercise, right? A lot of people think a very specific way of exercise. Exercise is 3 days of cardio a week and 2 days of lifting or whatever. People are like, there's this very specific image. However, you'll be missing out on the individuality of exercise. I mean, that's why and we're going to talk about this later, define it as movement because we want the definition to be expanded. Because like for me, I love tennis. Tennis is fun for me. Emily and I play. We have a great time when it's not 103 outside like
right
it is
now
today.
It's a little too crazy.
Yeah, but we have a great time with that. Yeah. Some people would hate that, but they don't have to do that. That's not what a healthy life looks like specifically. That is a universal principle, which is the idea we should all move.
We should all move.
In a very specific process. We are going to play this game with rackets at the court that's 5 minutes down the road. Yeah. So we can't get caught in that trap because it'll make us miss out on our options.
Yeah, and a lot of men have that tendency to be an all or nothing type thing.
Right.
If I can't do it all, I'm going to do nothing. So if I can't be at 6% body fat, I'm not even going to try. So I'm going to be at 40. And you're like,
so true.
How about a 20? Get in between there. And and so we tend to do that as men. Well, if I can't be a billionaire, I'm just not going to try. And it's like, you need to kind of soften a little bit and figure out what's really important. Yes. And then I think also when you approach it with, hey, what have I been blessed with? And what am I gifted in? Yes. Some people are gifted in things that maybe you're not gifted in, but that doesn't mean their gift is better than yours.
That's so true. That's
good. I get around people who are gifted in like handy stuff. They can, like my brother can build anything, make anything. I can't. I made a shoe rack that's pretty shabby. I was proud of it. He laughed at it, but it holds my shoes. Yeah. So for me, it was a success. Yeah. Because I'm not Mr. Handy. Yeah. But I did that. Yeah. So everybody's different. And we have to understand that what we need to do is look at, okay, what am I good in? And am I giving my best in what I have and what I'm doing? Yeah. A lot of parents have problems with their children because they have a very narrow view of what success for their child is. That's good. So they try to push their child a certain way. Yeah. And what they do when they do that is they're not seeing who is my child? What is my child gifted in? I want my child to go be a lawyer when your child may be more of a people person who could do sales a whole lot better or different things like that.
That's so good. I think what we're trying to do here is help you guys expand your version of success because I think our culture gets very narrowed down. Yeah. However, what we are not saying is that success is completely objective. Yeah. We're not saying like you can say, well, my definition of success is sitting on the couch all day, not working a job, getting a paycheck from the government, and watching my favorite show. Yep. that's not success. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter, what you're doing. That is not the definition of success. What we're saying is there are the universal principles of success.
Yeah.
Now that brings the question, what are those universal principles? What are the big ideas? What are the boundaries of the fence for the playground? If we're going back to your illustration.
Okay.
And for us, we call those the fundamentals.
Yeah.
The fundamentals are what we call the universal principles for success. It comes from the sports illustration.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're playing basketball or football or tennis.
Yeah.
You got to have agility.
Yep.
Agility is a fundamental that every athlete has to work on.
Yeah.
Or balance. Or, there are these fundamental things that are universal, no matter what sport you're in or what game you're playing.
Yeah.
And that's why we are defining universal principles as the fundamentals. And the question is, are you putting those fundamentals into practice?
Yeah.
That's the big thing we have to evaluate for ourselves.
Well, and a lot of men get distracted because they don't think about the fundamentals. They're looking at the higher level things.
Yeah.
So, for us, we have 4 key fundamentals that we want every man to focus on. And so we tell them, okay, you focus on these 4 areas of your life. Everything else will handle itself.
Yes.
And so what a lot of men do, though, is they look at this one thing. Like for some men, it's, I want a home that's $1 million. So to them, that is the most important thing. What they don't realize is they'll lose all these other things. They'll forget the really important things and focus on that because that's what success is to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes, maybe their parents instilled that in them.
Right.
Sometimes they grew up poor, so they kind of revert the other way.
Yeah.
And so they kind of lose out on what they could be. And I think what you talked about earlier, a lot of men, it's just a matter of what are you capable of? A lot of men are living below what they're capable of out of fear, out of guilt, out of shame.
Yeah.
And so they're not really pushing themselves to be their very best. See, for a lot of men, success is just being the very best you can be. Doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means you're getting better, you're growing in every area of your life. And a lot of men don't want to think about all that. So they just pick one thing.
Yeah.
I want to, make $1 million. I want to have a big house, whatever. And I think that narrows that definition.
Yeah.
And what they do is they'll end up putting blinders on to the other areas of their life.
Yeah. And I mean, we're going to be talking about those 4 fundamental areas.
Yeah.
We're going to be going into more detail, but the general thing is the parts of who you are.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
And going into that. And when you're well in those 4 fundamentals,
Yeah.
your life is going to improve. And the truth is, it's about application. It's not about information.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So just because you listen to this podcast and you learn these things, it's not going to fix you. It's not going to make everything great. You have to apply this stuff out the door. That's why we refer to ourselves as life coaches.
Yeah.
The coaches can't run the drill for the athlete.
Yeah.
The coaches can give the drill to the athlete, but the athlete doing that drill is what improves their life. And so what we want to stress as we've defined success, as we've given a little bit of the principle of it, is you have to get into the application of it. You have to get into doing it. You have to get into defining it.
Well, that's the hard part because for a lot of men, you don't like to feel that you're not good at something.
Oh, I get that.
I'll look stupid. I'll feel dumb.
I hate looking dumb.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And there's people who that keeps them from trying new things.
Yep.
When what we don't understand is trying new things will expand our thinking, our abilities. And even if you never become super proficient in something, it can still grow you.
It's true.
To help in other areas of your life.
Yes.
Like if you begin movement in your life,
Yeah.
you may never do a marathon,
Yeah.
but you'll be in better shape. Your heart will be healthier. You might live a little longer and you just feel better.
Yeah.
That'll help every other area of your life, as opposed to sitting on the couch eating a giant bag of chips. At that moment, you're like, oh man, I love my chips. I love to eat while I'm on the couch. But later, you're going to feel terrible.
But when you actually try those things, it yields such benefits because if you get out of your shell, no matter, even if it's something like you said, that's not going to be perfect,
Yeah,
it improves you.
it does.
Because
makes you better.
here's the truth. Sucking it up and facing it, no matter what it is, whether it's a problem you have or a thing you need to improve or a skill that you want to cultivate, when you suck it up and look at it in the face, it helps you. Because it does two big things. One, a lot of times I find for myself, things that I'm afraid of, things that I'm avoiding because I feel like they'll be too painful.
Yeah.
When I actually get into it, it's almost never as bad as I thought it was.
It's true. Yeah.
Almost never.
Yeah.
So that's the first benefit. Is it literally reduces what you in your mind you've created as like, oh, I can't ever deal with this. Or,
I know.
oh, this is hopeless. But then two, once you start looking at it and get an honest evaluation, well, then the creativity comes in of being able to say, all right, well, let's do some problem solving.
Yeah.
Let's look, maybe it's a physical thing. Maybe it's like, oh man, I weigh more than I want to. I weigh 20 pounds more than I want to. That is my problem right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at some ways to solve that.
Yeah.
You can start thinking in that headspace when you stop avoiding it.
Yeah. I read something the other day where someone said that it's not that I can't do it. It's that I can learn to do it. Yeah. You may not be able to do something right now. You may say, I don't know how to do this right now.
Yep.
But I can learn.
Yep.
And it's not that you have to be perfect. It's like the Olympics. Most of us are not going to give the effort to try and be an Olympic athlete.
And to be honest, most of us couldn't even if we gave the effort.
Yeah, even if
and
we
that's
gave
okay.
the effort. And that's fine. But you can do something.
Yeah.
You can be a person who gets into movement. You can be a person who reads a book. You may not read 1,000 books a year.
You're not Ty Lopez.
But yeah.
I read a book a day.
A book a day.
That's a lie.
But if you just read, just read something, it's better than reading nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to do that all or nothing mentality and take it away.
Yeah. And it literally, the first step, we told you guys we'd give you the first step.
Yeah.
The first step is facing it.
Yeah.
The first step is honestly evaluating. I guess the best illustration I could give is it's the difference between surgery and taking medicine. I've known a lot of people who they take medicine for like knee pain, let's say, and they're like, oh, my knee's bothering me. And they go for like 10 years just avoiding it. They don't want to deal with the knee pain. They hate it. But, they don't want to have to go through all the stuff with surgery.
Yeah.
But almost every time, once they actually get the surgery and walk through the physical therapy and get back walking again, they're like, why didn't I do this 10 years ago?
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen to you.
Yeah. Don't be that guy.
Please don't do that to yourself. You can start dealing with your stuff today because once you face it, you're going to see it's not as big of a deal as you thought it was. And you can walk the journey of long-term health, long-term success. You're not going to know where you fit on the playground until you start looking at what you enjoy.
Well, and what I tell people is you have to take, if you're going to look at reality, you've got to take the judgment out of it. You're looking at reality to figure out where you're at, not to judge yourself and shame yourself.
That's true. That's a good thing.
I've always called it mirror time.
Yep.
When you stand in front of the mirror after you get out of the shower, that's reality. Now you may feel shame because, oh man, I shouldn't have eaten all that. I've been eating too much. I'm not doing anything. But if you take that away, you just look at the reality. Okay, I'm 20 pounds overweight. It's time to do something.
Yes.
And that is a reality. And what you want to do as a man is apply that to every area.
Yeah.
And say, okay, what's the reality of my emotions? Do I blow up?
Yeah.
Do I have anger control issues?
Yeah.
Do people avoid me?
Yeah.
Sometimes, am I a middle school girl sometimes in my emotions? And I think men need to really look at themselves.
Yeah.
Am I moody? Because nobody likes to be around someone who's moody, but sometimes we never look at ourselves. We think, well, I just feel bad.
Yeah.
Okay, you're kind of moody.
Yeah.
And maybe you need to deal with that. Find healthy ways to deal with that and not sit there and go, well, here I am again blowing up.
Yeah. And I think it's good to remember that mirror time, as you've defined it, I think that's a great definition, is not just looking at your negative traits, it's also looking at your positive
Great
traits.
point. Great point.
You need to honestly evaluate, what am I good at?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get frustrated as guys because we're trying to do things that we don't even enjoy.
Yeah.
Maybe you grew up in a home where like physical elements didn't really matter. It's all about how much money you made.
Yeah.
And yet you're great with your hands. And you don't have a big fancy lawyer or doctor job, but you are fantastic. Maybe you're an electrician. You're the best electrician. you're so good at that naturally. Well, once you give yourself honest evaluation time, you can say, okay, I should stop trying to feel like I should be a doctor and a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to focus on being the best electrician I can be.
Yeah.
And you can excel in what you're good at because you've honestly evaluated what are my expectations, what is reality.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of times we don't. I love that point. We don't think about, okay, what am I good at? What can I lean into? It's
Yes.
like earlier you talked about you and Emily enjoy tennis.
Yep.
You love it. It's fun. So
Yeah.
you lean into that because it's what you like. And I think for men, they can figure out, okay, maybe I don't like to sit and read a book,
Yeah.
but I don't mind listening to a book while I'm doing other things.
Right.
So they find ways that help them get and grow and figure out themselves.
Yeah.
And also, this works for me.
Yes.
And I think if you figure out what works for you, that's a good thing to do. Lean into that and don't avoid it because, well, other men don't do it. Well, okay, who cares? If it works for you, do it.
Exactly.
It's like the playground. You may go play in the corner over here.
Yeah.
Other kids are playing on the jungle gym.
Yeah, but you're playing in the dirt.
Yeah,
Cool.
you're having fun.
Have fun in the dirt, man.
That's you're still in that success realm.
Yeah, you are.
And you're doing your thing. And I
Yeah.
think as men, we have to find that, okay, this is me. Like
Yeah.
there are some guys out there, they're not hunters, they're not fishermen, maybe they're into anime.
That's me.
And
All those are
and
me.
stuff like that. So fine. You don't have to hunt to be a man. You don't have to fish to be a man. You can watch anime and be a man.
Yeah.
And so we need to figure out, okay, who am I? What am I? Of course, I talk about anime because that's what we're into.
Yeah.
But
it's true.
but that's okay. And what we want to do is not make the definition so small that we box ourselves out and we feel like we're just failures in everything.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way of putting it is mirror time, because that's going to be our challenge to you guys, is
Yeah.
to start some mirror time, to start honestly evaluating.
Yeah.
It may be painful up front, but it expands your world
It does.
afterwards. You
And
know?
it's really good if you may not have this. A lot of guys don't have close friends they can talk with. But if you have someone who you trust and you can say, hey, tell me the good and tell me some stuff that's not so good. Give them permission to be a mirror to you
Yes.
because they may see something you don't even see.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people compliment you. They're like, you're really good at this. And you're like, really?
Yep.
I never think of that.
Yeah, you assume everyone's like you in that way.
Yeah. And but then also give them permission to say, okay, what are some things that maybe get on your nerves about me? And give them that permission to be that mirror.
Yep.
Now, we don't always have that.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's rough if you give your spouse that right. You want to make sure you have a really good relationship with your spouse because you don't want them to think they can do it all the time. And if you have a good relationship, you can do that for each other. But some buddies, some guys, and if you don't have that, just try and be open and honest to yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And, as we go into the future with Thriving Man, we want to be able to bring some community elements to our stuff so
Yeah, we
that
do.
you don't have to do things alone. We want to move from giving you the tools and saying, go run with it, to giving you the tools and saying, let's walk through it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
That's what our personal and that's what our individualized coaching sessions are for.
Yeah, it
is
is.
to be able to step by step help you through the journey of evaluating, making a plan, and keeping you accountable to the
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
Because, this is the first step, but it's not the final step.
Yeah.
So, kind of our challenge to you this week is to do some mirror time, honestly evaluate what you love, your passions, what you hate, your dislikes,
Yeah.
your strengths, what are you good at, your weaknesses, what are you not so good at? Where does that fit in with your life? Do you have a job that mostly focuses on your weaknesses?
Yeah.
Well, of course you're going to be miserable, okay. Being able to ask those questions
Yeah.
is important. And we want to challenge you to find what we call the first domino. What's that one thing in your life that's causing the most pain?
Yeah.
What's the one thing in your life that's the most unlike how you want it to be?
That's good. That's a good way to put it.
And just find it.
Yeah.
Find that one thing, because we're going to be talking about the 4 elements of success in the future. We're going to be diving a little bit deeper into how you can really make success something real and tangible. But for now, let's start with what we don't like.
Yeah.
And what are the things in our definitions of success that aren't correct?
Yeah.
What are the things we are quote unquote failing in? You know, do you have anything to add to that? Anything you would say?
Yeah, I think through it, just remember this is not a shaming thing.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
not a thing to, you know, like a lot of guys out there in our country deal with porn problems. And that's not to shame them. We just need to look at the reality. If you're dealing with this, look at the reality. If you're dealing with your weight, look at the reality. If you're dealing with emotions, maybe you go through relationship after relationship after relationship. Let's look at the reality of it. You know, because you can't fix anything till you see the reality.
Yeah.
You know, a doctor, once they diagnose, then they can do something about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes them a while to diagnose because your symptoms could be a bunch of things. So it takes them a little bit. So it may take you a little bit,
That's true.
but keep going back to it and you'll get better and better at it.
Yeah. Avoiding it never fixes it.
No, it doesn't.
But once you start the journey towards being well,
Yeah.
really, you've already started the journey of success.
You have.
Because it's a process,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm sure we'll go into more detail about that in the future.
Yeah.
Guys, the reason we make all of this stuff, the podcasts, the resources at thrivingman.com, PDFs, individualized coaching, digital coaching sessions, which are coming, it's to help you be successful and to have the universal principles and fundamentals of success, I guess what the Bible would call wisdom,
Yeah.
properly applied to your own life,
Yeah.
to where you have long-term success, not just a place you get to and then are dissatisfied
Yeah.
with. We want you to experience that success mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, so that your life can be better and your world can be better. Because our world needs good, healthy, thriving men.
It does.
So check out those resources on our website. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.